Will that work? So just work with Dave, what, if you need some of the different, he has access to NAPA's, whatever they update anyway. There's a couple of huge developments that are in Middleton area of influence that were not on that map. And so that's what I was waiting on, last time you paid me, the councilman, but, Dave said he just, they don't update any of their information, or they don't put the information into that repository.
Well, we're in touch with Guilford now.
Okay, good, because they've got, 12 coming home, so.
Yeah, we literally have no idea, not only over the phone, but also our district boundaries were on cook the show. I'm going to do some district office about our boundaries, who we can talk to. But yeah, thank you.
Yeah, well, when Dave and I were talking about what that map is supposed to be, well, I can do this, because we can only do just little pieces of it for the boundaries, right, when we're moving it on the map. And so he goes, well, I said, what would be really great is to be able to see how you pull into the district. And then if we have the availability of the, developments that are going on. Now, those are only for 5 years, back 5 years. So if you wanted more history, more development popped in there that are not already existing or that are in.
Yeah, I think 5 years.
He can kind of do that, but,
no, I appreciate that. But I think they will kind of start to go plus on deck. This is right where we can use that. Okay.
yeah, I think it's at least a start where you can kind of get a pretty broad picture of.
We can pick one direction there and get updated. So.
Every city can put their own development in.
Right.
Most of them don't have probably the impact that Middleton, Napa, Caldwell have.
Right. And the county's right there too.
Yeah, and the county.
Yeah. We've got a lot of on deck out there too.
Yeah, and some of that was just out of our control. It was approved years ago, zoning.
Now we're catching up.
And in Jeremy County, the zoning was approved years ago. Didn't get on the payment when we probably should have.
Oh, really? I don't know that map.
Huh?
I don't know that map.
Well, the county and the city can, after a period of time, revisit the county, but they have to do it as a permit. And it says if you look, it should have been in the city and in the county.
Oh, I didn't know we could vote. So who they have to do? Who they have the approval of? They want to put the district vote.
Well, so, no, if they are pulling in water and sewer and you have a passive application, if they're pulling in water and sewer and they don't have a passive application, they have to pay for their application and then ask when they're, municipal service is required for that. But
good evening. We'll begin the hearing. This is a regularly scheduled meeting of the Caldwell Hearing Examiner for May 24th, 2022. I've served in both a decision-making capacity and an advisory capacity to the mayor and city council. There are two types of public hearings that this commission conducts. The first is a legislative hearing whereby we formulate recommendations on certain land use requests. My recommendations are then forwarded on to the city council who makes decisions on legislative matters. The second type of hearing is quasi-judicial in nature, meaning that the requests are specific to a parcel of land. I am authorized to make decisions on requests for special use permits, variances, preliminary plat, time extensions, and planned unit developments that do not involve the subdivision of land. However, any decision I may make tonight is by no means final. Anyone that believes that he or she has been aggrieved by my decision has a right to file an appeal to the city council. On quasi-judicial requests that involve the subdivision of land, rezones, and annexation, I am authorized to only make recommendations to the city council who will make the final decision. The hearing procedures as required by the Idaho Code are as follows. 1, staff will first present a report on the application. 2, the applicant or the applicant's representative will then present the summary of the request. Testimony of those in support will be taken, followed by testimony from those in neutral position, followed by those in opposition. I will allow the applicant or applicant's representative rebuttal. After rebuttal testimony is given, public testimony is closed, and no new oral or written testimony will be allowed unless I elect to reopen the testimony. The time limits for testimony are as follows. The applicant will receive 10 minutes. Those in favor, neutral, opposed, and rebuttal will all be allowed 5 minutes of testimony. I accept oral and written testimony from those in attendance, but only if you signed in the sign-up sheet to speak. When testifying before me, you must come to the podium, state your full name and address, and acknowledge, let's scratch that last part. I will ask everyone to treat all parties with fairness and respect. I will not tolerate any outbursts, so forth. I also ask that those in attendance please turn off your cell phones. I am a volunteer hearings examiner and receive a small compensation for my efforts. I am charged by law to keep a clear record of the proceedings, consider factual testimony, and to stay within the city's and state's rules and regulations. We, the city staff, thank you for your courtesy to us and to others as we move through the process. With that, we'll begin the hearing. The first item of business is approve the April 26, 2022 hearing examiner meeting minutes. They are so approved with corrections. A couple of announcements here, changes in the agenda. Under old business, section 2, item 1, action item SUP 2109. The Madison Estates subdivision will be continued to the June 28, 2022 hearing examiner meeting. So if you're here to testify on that, please come back June 28th and give your testimony. The next item, the change on the agenda under section 3, new business, item 4, case number CPM 21-2, known as the Arrow Rock Farms subdivision, has been continued or will be continued to June 28, 2022. So if you are here to testify on the Arrow Rock Farms subdivision, that will be next month. So I appreciate you coming out if you missed that one, and we'll see you next time around. With that, the first item for the hearing agenda is case number SUP 22-9, a request by VR Sports, Colton and Pearson Hoffman to locate an event amusement center including virtual reality games, etc. At Main Street and 6th Avenue, Caldwell, Idaho. And with that, I'd like to ask the staff to make the staff report presentation, please.
Thank you, Mr. Hearing Examiner. Debbie Rude, Senior Planner, 621 Cleveland Boulevard. V-Sports is a virtual reality family entertainment recreation facility that is requesting to relocate from Coeur d'Alene to 525 Main Street, in the basement of that building. We conducted a roundtable meeting. The proposed use of the building requires a special use permit as an amusement center in the city center zoning district. All of the proposed uses are fall within the bounds of what would be allowed in the city center with a special use permit. We're excited about their business model and their proposal. They do have proposed some signage, and they've been indicated to them that they will have to do a, separate sign permit through the planning and zoning department for the proposed signage, so I just wanna make sure that's clear, that we are not approving the proposed signage that they have on the exterior of the facility tonight. The fire district, building, engineering, and planning reviewed this in the roundtable, discussion. There were no major concerns with the proposed use. It will require a, tenant improvement building permit to comply with fire and building, but, no major issues with what's being proposed. Staff is recommending approval of this application, and I'll staff the question.
Thank you, Ms. Root. I'm just a little bit curious, about a couple of things here. One is the applicant seeking an alcohol license. So you better ask the applicant.
You can ask the applicant, but they had not proposed that, no.
Thank you. And then have you discussed any kind of safety precautions or design for the knife throwing concession?
Just make sure, no, I don't know. No.
And this would be akin to, for example, the archery lanes, over on the Carter Boulevard. Where does this fall in the use schedule? What is it like? Because certainly we don't have knife throwing as a use.
Well, we have a facility that is a hatchet throwing facility, in the city center. I would, put it in that same kind of realm, but I think that's better answered by the applicant.
And typically there's something similar to that in the ordinance. Is there, other than that precedent that you cited, is there, like archery, for example?
I am not sure.
Okay, thank you. And it says in regards to, I guess it's a question for the applicant, that a minor, anyone under 18, should have an adult chaperone to participate in that activity. I just have a question on that. I think that's the applicant. Thank you, Ms. Root, and with that, I would like to turn the time over to the applicant. I do want to mention that we have a nice floor plan here, a late exhibit submitted today, and I'll label this SUT 22-9, number 1. And with that, I'd like the applicant to make their presentation, please.
Oh. Yes, I think, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, sorry, I've got a 2-year-old in the background if you guys hear him. As far as our facility goes, the knife throwing is something that we're hoping to grow into. We're just trying to get it all approved right now here and there, or approved now so that we can add it here and there. All of our stuff, in order to part in PR, laser tag.
Would you please state your name and address, please?
Kirsten Hoffman, and we live on Stony Brook Drive in Middleton, Idaho. Our address will be 525 Main Street in Caldwell.
And your home address?
9248 Stony Brook Drive in Middleton, Idaho.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry to interrupt you. Go ahead, please.
So as far as our attractions go, in order to take part in our facility, or just the games in general, you do have to fill out a waiver, and you have to be 18 years old to fill out the waiver, or you have to get consent for your minor to take part. Laser tag and PR is probably going to be our most played attractions. Knife throwing is honestly something that is more for dads. We wanted to do hatchet throwing, but there is a place right across the street pretty much that does hatchet throwing, just for the sake of the building height or the ceiling height in the space on Main Street, it just wouldn't be practical to do axes. What would happen is people would throw the hatchet and then it would curve the ceiling, and that's just not really safe. So we decided to go with doing knives, which is more like throwing a dart versus throwing an axe that arches over. So safety-wise, as far as knife throwing goes, is there's precautions. It'll be two, if you actually look on the map, there's the two lanes. Those are old post bins. And so we'll be cutting out two archways in there, with a contractor will come in and cut out two archways, and you'll have to step inside the pole bins, which are about, 3 to 4 feet thick of concrete to throw the axes, or the hatchet, not the hatchet, the knife, and then when they step out, it'll be a chain link area, so it can be closed kind of like a dugout, more practically, so a toddler can't be, if they're happy and running around, they're not gonna be running in the way of the knife throwing, which sounded like that was your guys' big question, was is it gonna be safe and is there gonna be parent consent? And then, laser tag, it's like practical laser tag, but it's a little bit more advanced. Instead of having big bulky vests, it's, you just have a little headset on and then you carry your actual gun. Virtual reality, it's like stepping into a video game. We have haptic vests, so you can feel, like if you're in a first-person shooter game, you get shot in the game, you can feel the vibration, and then there'll be a second delay, and you'll feel the bullet exit. But that doesn't hurt, it's just vibrations. Or you can climb Mount Everest, or travel anywhere in the world in Google Earth, whatever you really like doing. We have over 200 games, and then we wanted to do a cafe. We're not gonna have any alcohol. I know you mentioned something about alcohol. It's gonna be all, mixed drinks, but it's all gonna be dry bar mixed drinks. Things like one drink we're gonna probably do is called a fishbowl. And you get a little fishbowl plastic cup and you put, nerds in the bottom of it, and then you put some ice, some Swedish fish, some more, ice, and then you put Powerade and, Sprite in it, and it looks like a fishbowl, but it's just Powerade, Sprite, and nerds. And it's just kind of something fun for kids to do, or a fun atmosphere for them to go. And then we're planning on being closed Mondays and Tuesdays and open till 9 p.m. the rest of the week. I think those are the big questions we've been asked by the city. Was there any other questions that you guys had?
Yes, I did have a question about the knife throwing that the minors have an adult accompany them. Does that mean that there's one adult in the room, or if you have 5 minors, you have 5 adults, how does that parse out? What we do right here is we actually have 2 locations here in Coeur d'Alene, and one of them is a location that is axe throwing and archery tag, and archery tag is like dodgeball, but the axe throwing is another business, and we're really just borrowing with them from them, but they have it to where there's one adult that's in charge for their own kids. If a parent feels it's okay for their 3-year-old to throw a knife, then their 3-year-old can throw a knife as long as they're standing on the proper lines and following proper safety procedures. But we've just kind of found that if you feel comfortable enough for your child to do it, then you just need to be in attendance with your child. If the parent has 4 children and they're comfortable and their kids are following all the safety rules and they're listening to what the safety guide has said, then we allow it. But if you're like looking more like we wouldn't do a school function in there, I guess, if that's kind of what you're asking. It's more, it's up to each parent and if they feel there. But before we do knife throwing, it's not like we just say, hey, go in the cage and throw some knives. Like, there is a game host that says this is your rules, this is where you're required to stand to meet safety lines, this is how you should be throwing, and then there's a coach that's standing there making sure that they're not being reckless with the knife throwing. So it's very much guided and observed by a coach, if that makes sense. Yes, thank you very much. And did you have any more to present on this application?
No.
Okay.
You guys have been very generous and fair, thank you.
Well, thank you very much. We'll go to the next person to testify. I have Dustin Rose. Mr. Rose. In favor.
Hello. My name is Dustin Rose, and I am also the manager of the building. And The owner is very pleased, to welcome, this business into the building. We think it's a great fit. Currently, we have a church upstairs, and we have the sushi restaurant next door. We don't think it's gonna interfere with the activities of either.
Could you state your address?
Yes, it's 4243 South Leonato Avenue, Meridian, Idaho.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Oh, no problem. So as far as we're concerned, I think they're gonna be a great fit. And, your questions about the knife throwing are on point. And when you look at the diagram of the building, you'll see that as, Cozy was pointing out, these are old coal rooms, which are totally encased right now with concrete. So when they open those doors up, they're gonna be under total control. So the ricochet, if you're worried about the throw, most people out who know how to throw knives, there's a ricochet effect. So they're gonna be very careful with that, and they have a way to make sure, because of the structure of the building, that it's not gonna ricochet back on someone who's throwing. So that, I don't think that's a major concern. One of the concerns from the tenant upstairs was noise, and so we're gonna make sure that the pipes that protrude through the floor are insulated, to cut down on any kind of noise that might flow up. And of course, we would have to also make sure that the noise from upstairs doesn't flow down. So anyway, that was pointed out, and, anyway. So I don't think it's gonna be an issue with the tenants. It isn't an issue with the sushi restaurant. They were there at the neighborhood meeting. The only thing I would point out to the city is that, as you know, tonight when I was coming here, there was no place to park. And that's all open parking around that building, and always has been. What we need, as a city, you need to address getting more parking for the downtown area for the merchants. It's just absolutely, important, because as you fill up that space you're building with more tenants, it's gonna have less parking rather than what you have right now. So my suggestion to you, that I have the floor, is to have a space where we can transport people, where people can park, and we have public transportation, and you can charge a fee for it, of course. So people get to park, they get a ticket, they can go on their little Caldwell trolley and go around there, and then get back on the trolley when they wanna go back to the parking lot. And that way you have a private company responsible for it, doesn't cost the city anything, and they're responsible for taking care of it. So that's my suggestion to you. So anyway, I'm really excited about these people coming, and I totally endorse them.
I do have one question, Mr. Rivers. And that was parking, and so this is the first case that I've done in a downtown application, and I'm not familiar with the parking requirements. Do you have parking specific to your building, or is it just on?
No, it is open parking all around the building.
Okay.
Our particular building is 25,000 square feet, and it's all built on the property line. And the building was built in 1915, and that's the way they had set it up then. So the alleyway behind the building is, city controlled. That's an access alleyway, and the parking all around it is all city parking.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. I appreciate your testimony. And next, Mr. Asher Pomet. Sir, would you like to testify? State your name and home address, please.
Thank you, Mr. Hearing Examiner. My name is Asher Palmer. I live at 16231 Lewis Way in Caldwell, Idaho. According to the latest research on VR, the VR market size is projecting to increase from $5 billion to an average revenue of $12 billion by 2024. The USA also has over 15 million VR users and growing. So I just think about the taxes we could get from the VR arcade company in Caldwell. That could be a lot of money to solve any future problems our city might face in the future. As a kid in Caldwell, my dad had to drive me 45 minutes to Eagle just to play an hour of VR. And that is ridiculous, to have to drive that long for a simple pleasure. But if there was one in Caldwell, it would be much more convenient. My final point is that the VR is the technology of the future, so how are we supposed to use it without a single arcade in Caldwell? Also, you can help kids like me by approving the VR, which will give kids more experience. I will now stand for questions if you have any.
Yes, and Mr. Clement, certainly one of those 60 million, who participate in VR. And, I thought it was just an internet thing, you could be anywhere to do that. And what's the added attraction to going to a VR, arcade? Why would you stay at home and do that?
Well, the average headset for that, the latest model that is actually most popular is called the Oculus Rift, and it is incredibly expensive. In fact, the latest model is at an average of $299.
Okay, good answer. And Mr. Coleman, I do appreciate your testimony, and it's very helpful in this hearing. Thank you very much.
Would I be able to ask a question?
Yes, that concludes the people who signed up. I will allow rebuttal for 5 minutes. Go ahead, please. Say your name and address.
Kirsten Hoffman at 9824 Stony Brook Drive, in Middleton. Actually, thank you for that. I was just curious, as far as you said, you've driven before to go play at arcades, and that was a really phenomenal presentation. And what compelled you to speak up tonight?
Oh, sorry, I couldn't hear you. What did you say?
Yeah, that was an amazing presentation, and I commend you on that research. It was profound. What made you want to speak up tonight in favor of us?
Well, I never get a lot of chances to talk to very high-ranking people like this, so I just took my chance.
Well, good, you got a good future in front of you, kid. Thank you. I just wanted to congratulate him and say thank you for being bold, because that's not an easy thing to do, so.
Thank you. Okay, goodbye.
Thank you very much. Do you have any more rebuttal? Just one time. Where'd she go?
Sorry, no, we're good. I just wanted to give him kudos, because it's not easy.
Thank you very much. And with that, I will conclude the hearing, the testimony part of it, and go to the analysis. And for case number SUP 22-9, special use permit for this arcade, the staff report has presented comprehensive plan policies that address the usefulness and might say, doability of this type of land use. The comprehensive plan analysis is found on page 3 of the staff report. I find support the application, and also on page 3, the findings of facts are as follows. Section 6, the Caldwell hearing examiner accepts the facts outlined in the staff report, public testimony, and the evidence list. All adopted city ordinances, standards, and codes were used in evaluating the application. The proposed use is conditionally permitted by the terms of ordinance and is subject to conditions of approval. And following that, the conclusions of law, Caldwell hearing examiner has the authority to hear this case in order that it be approved or denied. The public notice requirements were met. The hearing was conducted with the guidelines of applicable Idaho code and city ordinances. And the order of decision is as follows. Based on the findings of fact and conclusions of law, the hearing examiner hereby orders that case number SUP 22-9, request by Colton and Kirsten Hoffman to locate an amusement center, the sports arena, in the DC City Center Zone, the 525 Main Street, is approved with the following conditions of approval. And on page 4 of the staff report, we have conditions of approval 8.2 through 8.10. And those will pertain, and with that, I conclude the hearing on this subject. And thank you all who participated, and we'll move to the next item on the agenda. I've been informed that the next presenter is going to be a little late, and so we'll bump the,
I can speak on behalf of Jared, or I need a planner, and yeah, he told me that I was hearing louder. I'm more comfortable speaking about this particular project.
if you're fine with that, we'll go ahead with Mr. Taylor. Well, thank you, then, we will go to the next item on the agenda, case number ANN 22-2, PDD 22-2, and SUB 22-6. Request by subdivision maker LLC for the annexation of 5.43 acres, known otherwise the Connor Crossing subdivision application. And with that, I'd ask the staff please to make their presentation on this application.
Thank you, Mr. Hearing Examiner. Emma Hill, 621 Cleveland Boulevard. Staff is asking for the consideration of the annexation of 5.34 acres off of Ward Road. The applicant is requesting an R1 zoning, which is consistent with adjacent properties and the designation of comprehensive plan. The applicant is also requesting the approval of a planned unit development and preliminary plat for the subdivision of Connor Crossing. The proposed development will include 18 lots for townhomes and 3 lots for single-family homes. With the approval of the planned unit development, the minimum lot size will be reduced to 3,500 square feet, and they are proposing 12% open space. The parcel is adjacent to Vision Charter School, and the development meets the 2 minimum PUD requirements because of the variety of housing types and with attached and detached homes. The development encourages infill development and contributes to compatible design with the existing neighborhood and the Vision Charter School. The proposed density is 3.87 dwelling units per acre, and for amenities, they are proposing a playground and a gazebo along with right-of-way for the Solomon Drain. They are also requesting that the amenities be considered sufficient for the hearing body that were proposed. They are also proposing reductions with dimensional standards for the R1 zone, and sorry about that. So the development reduction will be 10 feet for street side, 0 feet for rear yard, 0 feet for interior side for structures with shared walls, and 5 feet interior side setback for detached walls. Staff has provided analysis of the comprehensive plan for annexation, planned unit development, and preliminary plat, and found it consistent with many of the goals, policies of the plan, and we are recommending approval of annexation, PUD, and preliminary plat for Connor Crossing. I'll stand for any questions.
Thank you, Sheila. I do have a number of questions. Start in here. Well, the PUD is essentially a trade. I'm looking for the statement of the ordinance itself, but the concessions are allowed in the dimensional standards and so forth. in turn for a better design essentially. I mean, that's the general concept of PUD, at least the way I look at it. We have, yeah, here's the section I'm looking at, page 6, just a quote from the ordinance. Amenities, any latitude, flexibility, or relief provided to this land use application shall be compensated by the addition of some new amenity within or outside the development. Such an amenity should provide equal or greater value to development as a whole. And there's, so what I see here is concessions to setbacks, and also reduction in the amenities, in the amenities. So I guess the point I'm getting around to is they're seeking the best of both worlds. And do you see additional values in this proposal that would justify the waiver of the amenities?
So the shape of the property makes it, one of the reasons why one of these reductions would be, considered. There's a drain on the, northern side of, bordering the school that, is part of, or one of the reasons they are asking for a reduction. And we have also spoken with the, water department about this drain, and they would need to, keep it, or they would need to pipe it, and so this would be a part of, or making room for that drain.
Okay, so there are some trade-offs here. And the request is specifically for, to quote, their application, the rear setback be reduced to 0 when the lot is abutting a common lot. So can you demonstrate, if you pull that up on the screen somehow and show me where that occurs, or are we talking about, and I'll get into this a little bit, but it looks like they're asking for 0 rear lot setback throughout the subdivision. Is that correct? Or is it just where they abut a common lot? Could you show me the instances of where that occurs? Can we get that up on the screen, the preliminary plat? Perhaps this would be better for the applicant. Let me just rephrase this. Do you know how many rear yards are at 0? Well, we'll wait your turn. We'll take that, please.
But, yes, that is correct. Just, 0 on the setback.
And is that all 18 lots? Well, that's what I'm trying to get at, because it's, in their statement, if you look at the preliminary plat, it's, I had to go to the website and get the original to be able to read it, but,
About that too, I was supposed to have a presentation slide, but it didn't, transfer properly.
It's, referring to the table you have in conditions of approval on page 18 of the staff report, where it shows the deviations from the required dimensional standards. the rear yard, the ordinance says 20, requested deviation is 0. But their plat note says when lot is abutting a common lot, other lots, shall comply with the ordinance. Or at least, that's my impressions. Are there lots that, meet the standard, code?
Yes, that is my mistake, so the 0 for abutting the common lot, which, if you can see there, there's, yep.
Right, okay, so those like, 4 or so lots, abutting the canal, those are the ones, and the others going to, respect the standard setback in the rear yard.
So, there's the canal, which, is the 0 setback, and then the drain I was talking about earlier is on the north side, but that is, that has a rear setback.
Okay, so on the northern boundary, I'm not seeing, the open space, for a common lot. Is that right away or common lot that's going on the northern boundary of the plat?
It would not be a common lot, that would be for the drain easement.
Okay, so, those are 20-foot rear yard setback for those properties?
Yes.
Okay, great, just trying to nail this down. And then as they noted there, the plat has a slightly different wording than the staff report, particularly the table and the conditions. And I'd like to, address that. So, yeah, I'm a little uncomfortable with the waiver that, of the amenities. I guess they, 3 out of 4 is not bad, but, it seems like there's not a lot of, value. Yeah, the ordinance talks about things of extraordinary value, let's say like a clubhouse, which would be a good reason to waiver that for the amenity. It's sort of the same, a little bit of the same question about the setbacks. This is for Rob. Looking at the easements section of the plat, particularly on page 9 of the staff report, under general easements for public utilities shall be 10 feet wide. Are they meeting all of those utility easements in your evaluation of the plat? I'm concerned about this 0 line, 0 rear yard setback. So they're going to have easements outside of their parcel? I mean, I just want to understand this.
My name is Rob McDonald. I'm city engineer. 621 Cleveland Boulevard is my work address. Mr. Hearing Examiner, it appears, I have not had extensive review of this plat, but my staff members have in the engineering department. But at a glance, it looks like there is an easement along the rear of the lot that is missing. And usually that easement falls within whatever the rear setback is from the back fence line. And so I wouldn't expect that it would change the configuration of the layout, but there does need to be a rear lot easement for public utilities that may be necessary.
So that would be essentially a conflict with the applicant's request for a 0 setback in the rear yard. I'm just trying to clear this up. Are they going to have a setback?
Yeah, that would potentially be a conflict if they were requesting a 0 setback in the rear.
And then the subdivision requirements themselves require that the easement is on the parcel. It can't be external to the parcel. Or you do it both ways.
Yeah, I apologize. I would have to review the language. I think it requires that it's on the parcel.
But if there was a specific easement created in a common lot, then that could be something that could potentially satisfy the requirement. I would probably have to review that section of code and just to confirm that.
Thank you, Mr. Phillips. I have another question here, I'll try to get to it. Okay, I think that's it. I would like to ask the applicant at this time to make the presentation, please.
Sean Connor, 11476 Linden Road, this is the Jacob property. Yes, are we okay? There we go. Can you repeat that, or are we good? Sean Connor's my name. I live at 11476 Linden Road, which is adjacent to this property. We're just to the south of that, kind of where that hammerhead steps down. So the concept for this project was I am friends with a guy named Bud Comfort. He has a project called NeighborWorks. NeighborWorks is a community development non-profit organization that what they try to do is, because of the affordable housing issue that's going on, the crunch for people like teachers and police officers, people that have affordable housing, they're designing these what are called pocket communities within these infill areas. The concept here is to try to maximize the amount of affordable housing while also continuing to keep it in somewhat of a walking community with enough open space for people to be able to enjoy, parks and walk, have some areas where they can walking paths where this particular property is right next to Vision Charter School. So it's perfect for anybody that has kids, or teachers that want to work at either Caldwell Elementary or Vision Charter. The design was set up to try to increase density so that we could maximize the usage of infill space for affordable housing. I don't know if that answers your questions at all or not, but that's why we're asking for exceptions, trying to push for density, because we do think this project's perfect for what the city needs right now, which are they're townhouse style, built-in configuration as a duplex, most of them, so they have shared walls. We have Solomon Drain, as was stated already, behind this, which kind of corners us in. It pushes our density further in, so we can't get closer to the canal. We make exceptions for trying to get more space back there. We did put a park in. I don't know if you saw that at the end, where that kind of comes to the west side. There's that triangle. That's a pretty big park for just having. We also have a school right next to us at the park. So there were some things that were thought of that have an impact on the open space and why we chose it to do this configuration. I tried something else that didn't work, so we just ended up with this one. So that being said, whatever, if I need to do something, if we need to make a change or make a small modification to allow for something that maybe was missed or something that we can do better, I would ask that was subject to having the approval, subject to having that done, but we can make the modifications if necessary.
All right. Mr. Connor, I would like to address the same question to you. How many lots, or can you point out lots, tell me how many are going for the zero rear yard setback?
I'll do my best. My land use planner got held up in a Wilder hearing on this project, but so this area right here has a landscape buffer up against it. So all these lots right here, probably, you see where the buildable dotted line is, that's the building envelope. We had to butt up against this this landscape buffer right here, which is required, I believe, by to have the dedication for right of way along this area right here, along with landscaping. And then those are probably, I think those are, I'm not sure. To be honest with you, I wish my land use planner was here, probably answer this better than I can. But I will say there's another ditch right here that we're required to pipe up here on the north side. And so that limits the use of where we can build, and so we're trying to accommodate multiple, we have Solomon Drain right here that runs on the west side. There's a huge canal easement that comes up against us, so we got all this, we're kind of cornered in here. With them widening this road, and then putting a roundabout in, it kind of pushes everything in a little bit more than it would have probably. And we've got, of course, what is River Line, I think it's, where's this one? To the right, it's gonna be on the east side, where that other road comes in, and Pointer, or, I think that's Battery, sorry. So if you look at the entrance to our subdivision directly across from that, to the east, there's the entrance for another subdivision, I think it's called Glen Ridge Estates, or something like that, anyway. We tried to line that up as best we could, and there's a lot of open space over there, so I think the concept here was to try to, again, maximize use of, what we can build and where we can build, and increase affordable housing for people that need it in this area, and still keep it as a walking community that has plenty of open space surrounding. We have a pathway behind us that goes to a park, Caldwell City Park over there. There's a lot of options available for people for open space. Does that answer your question?
Close to it, so those lots that rear on Ward Road, those, I guess 5 lots there, do have a 10-foot easement requirement for utilities, but you're also wanting the 0 rear yard setback, right? I'm assuming the rear yard is towards Ward Road?
Yes, correct, yeah.
Okay, so, we can't have both, as far as I understand.
Right.
So as long as you're aware of that, you plus the 0 rear yard setback, there's still going to be an easement required somewhere in there.
I understand that, you know,
And,
I can see that, why that's a kind of a conflict there, and making sure that we have room for utilities, obviously.
So in fact, we may be looking at 10-foot rear yard setback out of 0, to accommodate the easement.
Which would kind of just decrease our building envelope, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, that's understandable, and that's, we definitely make adjustments if we need to for that.
I just want to be clear on that, because there's some ambiguity in
Yeah, for
what you submitted and what staff has
I
evaluated.
should have hired that kid that was in here, because he's gonna be an attorney here in about a week from now, probably. But, yeah, no, good catch on that, and I'm willing to make accommodations to make that.
We'll just simplify this and say that the easements take precedent over the building envelope.
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay.
Let me see, I think that's about it. I'll, make some, amendments to the conditions here.
Thank you.
If that concludes your testimony,
Yes, I just want to say thank you, everybody here, it's been awesome to work with, I like you guys a lot, I think I hired some of you guys to work in some other divisions around here, so thank you for your help, appreciate it.
well, thank you for the project, it's commendable. This is a dire need everywhere. It's safe to say that affordable housing is a universal problem, so thank you for your efforts in there. I have one of the people signed up. You just spoke, you wish to make a rebuttal to anything, are we good?
Sean Connor, 11476 Linden. I don't have any comments to rebuttal anything, unless there's something you think I should.
Okay, well, I did have one question as far as, so, just to clarify, we have 18 lots, correct?
21 lots, actually.
21 lots. And each of those lots could be a single building dwelling, or?
They are single-family townhouses, so they have attached walls.
Yeah.
But
they have lot lines.
Correct, yes.
Okay.
Yes. And I think there's 3 single-family, yeah, so there's an open space lot, actually, which goes around the entire property. If you look at the park that's, to the west that we're putting in, there's kind of a walking path that goes all the way around our property. Solomon Drain, and then it has a little bit of area for another open space, and we have, the open space, we also put our stormwater prevention in there, on that hammerhead, to the south end of the project. So, we did try to design, I think there's 22 lots, including that one common lot that goes around the whole property.
Okay.
To answer your question?
I have no further questions.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
You bet, thank you.
Appreciate your testimony. And that concludes the testimony portion of this hearing. Move to the analysis. In the plan unit developments, there are works requirements, criteria that need to be met. These are detailed on, page 2 and 3, of the staff report, and, actually carrying through the analysis, through page 7. There are a number of, ordinances here, looking specifically at, zoning ordinance, section 1003-07, plan unit developments, where the various criteria, should be met, in order to qualify with that. I just wanted to state that, I concur with the staff's analysis, of section 1003-07, and, clarifies the application here. We've had a discussion about the rear yard setbacks, and I will amend conditions to clarify that. And as far as the waiver of the amenity, the logic of the staff and applicant have convinced me that that waiver is justified and substantiated in the application. And moving to page 14, the comprehensive plan analysis, there are a page and a half of comprehensive plan policies with which I concur and do substantiate the application and the land uses thereon. Moving to the findings of facts, we have an annexation, a PUD, and a plat, preliminary plat here, which are technically 3 different applications. So, for the annexation portion of that, the Caldwell hearing examiner accepts the facts outlined in the staff report, public testimony, and the evidence list. All adopted city ordinance, standard, and codes are used in evaluating the application. The conclusions of law for the annexation are as follows. The Caldwell hearing examiner has the authority to hear this case and recommend to the Caldwell City Council to be approved or denied. The public notice requirements are met, the hearing was legally noticed and posted, and the hearing was held and conducted under requirements of the Idaho Code and city ordinances. Recommendation on the annexation, ANN 22-2. Based on the findings of facts and conclusions of law, the Caldwell hearing examiner hereby recommends to the mayor and city council the case number ANN 22-2, a request to annex 5.43 acres, more or less, within R1 low-density residential zoning designation for the property of R343-20010A0 in Caldwell, Idaho, be approved with the conditions of approval in section 9. And section 9 has conditions 9.2 through 9.5, which I accept at face value with one minor addition to condition 9.4, and just in the third sentence says the identified development plan for common crossing subdivisions, PUD, and I shall add PUD 22-2, shall result in the subject property, etc. So just adding the case number in there. So, with that, I recommend approval to the mayor and council for the annexation with the R1 zoning designation. Next section, moving to the plan unit development itself and preliminary plat. The same conditions, the analysis of the PUD section 10 of the zoning code, 1007, I find substantiates this application, and the it meets the ordinance as described in the staff report, as do the, comprehensive plan policies, enumerated in the staff report. Section 10, findings of facts of the PUD and preliminary plat. The Caldwell hearing examiner accepts the facts outlined in the staff report, public testimony, and evidence list. All adopted city ordinances, standards, and codes were used in evaluating the application. Conclusions of law. Planning unit development of preliminary plat, PUD 22-2, SUV 22-6. The Caldwell hearing examiner has the authority to hear this case and recommend to the Caldwell City Council that it be approved or denied. The public notice requirements were met. The hearing was legally noticed and posted. The hearing was held and conducted under requirements of Idaho Code and city ordinances. The recommendation to the City Council, Section 12, based on the findings of facts and conclusions of law, the Caldwell hearing examiner hereby recommends to the mayor, the City Council, the case number PUD 22-2 and SUB 22-6, request for preliminary plat approval of Connor Crossing subdivision, 21 residential lot development on parcels R343-200-1080, 5.43 acres more or less, in Caldwell, Idaho, be approved with conditions of approval below. And they are as follows. Starting on page 17 of the staff report, going through page 18, are conditions of approval, namely 14.1 through 14.15. I concur and make that recommendation to council with a couple of amendments to that. In condition 14.10, the following deviations from the required dimensional standard shall be approved as part of the plan unit development. There's a table there showing the zoning standard description, ordinance standard, and requested deviation to the first, the applicant has stated in their application on the front yard setback, they are seeking 15 feet in the plat notes, and the staff report cites no deviations. Are we on the same page on that one? Let me ask you that question.
Where does it say 15 feet for the front setback?
The plat note requests a 15-foot front yard setback.
It has to be 20 for parking.
Okay. Okay, strike that. So we'll have no deviation in the front yard setback. In the same table in the rear yard, following our discussion, the requested deviation is 0 when a lot is abutting a common lot. Other lots should comply with the ordinance. And to that I'd add, except where there is a required easement for rear yard utility easement. I hope that's not too convoluted. A small addition to condition of approval 14.12 and comply with PA for the water department requirements, the letter dated April 19th, 2022, which is my addition, of just adding the date of the exhibit. In item 14.14, addressing the development agreement, I'm just going to read the staff's second line of that, approved by City Council in conjunction with the annexation, and it says development, we'll strike development and add the word rezone, so with the annexation and rezone. adding a second sentence to 1414. The allowed land uses shall be restricted to those approved for PUD 22-2. And moving down, an addition of condition 1416, the PUD shall be limited to 21 residential lots. And with that, I conclude the order decision and make that recommendation to the mayor and city council and close this hearing. Thank you very much, and good luck. Moving on to the last item on the agenda tonight, we have, case number SUB 22-7, known otherwise as Cedars 3 through 7 subdivision. And with that, I would ask staff to please make the presentation.
Emma Hill, 621, Cleveland Boulevard. Tonight, staff is asking for the consideration for the approval of the preliminary plat for Cedars, numbers 3 through 7 subdivision. The proposed development will include 208 single-family residential lots in an already approved R1 zone. They're proposing 6.2% qualifying open space. The original plat for the Cedar subdivision was approved in 2002, and then in 2021, a time extension was approved for the original plat. However, City Council felt that this should only apply to Phase 2, which is why we are representing Cedars, or amended plat for 3 through 7 is in front of you today because of the time extension approval. The original plat from 2002 did not include any pathways, and this plat for 3 through 7 now includes a half-mile long pathway along the Dixie Drain and a third of a mile of neighborhood pathways along the Phyllis Drain. Staff has provided an analysis of the comprehensive plan for preliminary plat and found it to be consistent with the goals and policies of the plan, and is recommending approval for annexation, PUD, and subdivision for Cedars 3 through 7. And I will stand for any questions.
Ms. Shelby, the case I have is just for the preliminary plat. This is already in the city and already zoned, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so we're just looking at the preliminary plat on this.
Sorry, I looked at the wrong case file right there, so it is only for the preliminary plat for subdivision.
Okay, thank you very much. Could you point out on those maps where the number 2 is? That'd help me understand how we get from 1 to 3 to 7.
So 1 and 2, oh, it's not shown, but they are on the, over on this side, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so they're not contiguous to this application.
They are.
Across the street, though.
Yes. Well, it's, the drain is, yes, yeah.
Oh, that's 1 and 2?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, that helps a lot. I had a question about that. There is a discussion on page 2 about the about Phase 2 itself. I understand they're finishing up Phase 2. What is the exact status of that? Is it still a current application, and the subdivision plat is not being finalized, or has it been finalized? Where are we at on that?
Finalized.
Okay. And how many units were in Phase 2? Just trying to get the math straight here.
For the original 1 and 2, it was 414 residential lots. I am not sure about how that was broken. Oh, phase one was 76 residential lots, and I'm unsure about phase two.
Okay, I'll ask the applicant about that. Yeah, I'm just trying to get the context of this, you know, 1 through 7 to kind of put this picture together for me. So my understanding is the original 1 through 7 was 414 residential lots for all 7.
And it may be hard to see, in the staff report, but on page 11 of the first page of the preliminary plat, there is, kind of a chart that breaks it down by phase, and, phase 1 and 2 are crossed out. It is a little hard to read in the staff report.
Okay. Yeah, that's too small for me to see. All right,
Right there, let me. Again, this is too small, sorry about that.
okay, so the,
Right, it's right there, on the screen.
okay, I'll take your word for it. When I look at this, it just seems to me that the circulation pattern, can you put the whole picture up, the whole plat? So, primarily I'm looking at the southwest corner. I don't know which numbers those are, but the rectangle, the square in the southwest corner, for example, we have, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, something like 8 or 9 cul-de-sacs in there, and there's not a bridge across the drain, so that the people in that triangle in the central portion have access to the west. This doesn't seem like the best circulation pattern available here, and I was wondering if you have had that discussion about circulating through that section, and the same thing applies to the triangle on the north, that kind of arrowhead section, that it's a lot of cul-de-sacs, and there are connections made, but they seem a little slim, and the circulation within the subdivision itself, it is just one cul-de-sac after another. There's no real flow to it, except for the few roads, ingress and egress. Do you see that as an issue?
Not per the code, no. No.
Okay, the discussion we had a little earlier had to do with, I guess, I don't know if it's Moss Road that runs through the south end of the top half and the north end of the bottom half. Yeah, that goes right across through the section. So that has a termination on the eastern end that seems to be incomplete. I guess there's a discussion with the landowner there on the not part that is not participating in that. There's another issue, the way I see it, with that point of ingress egress, it seems fairly important given the overall, let's say, sluggish circulation throughout this. Is there a future for that connection to be made, or I mean, do we know that, or are we going to look at approval for something that's just kind of a wish or a dream, Mr. McDonald? Are we wishing on that connection?
Mr. Hearing Examiner, Rob McDonald for the record, 621 Cleveland Boulevard. We have entered into discussions with that property owner that is on the northwest corner of Moss and Florida. and had met with them several times, myself personally and, some other staff members. And we were not getting anywhere with that property owner. So the intent is, Moss is a collector roadway, and at some point in the future, it will go through. It may not be until either that property owner redevelops his lot or does major improvements on his property, then he will be obligated to dedicate right of way, or until, the city finds the need that has to be connected. There is an option of, making the connection on the south side, which is the property that the school, is using, which is, I believe currently dedicated public right of way. But at this point, because the school's use and some of their amenities are in that right of way, the city has not pursued, making that connection. And so you are correct, that would be a dead-end road, basically, that terminates, at their, access point and does not connect all the way through to Florida, for the time being.
Thank you, Mr. Donald. I guess my question there, the overall concern is the circulation throughout 1 through 7 here. Is that, how crucial is that connection of Moss to Florida? Is this a do or die thing, or are we satisfied to wait for the development patterns to work out?
Mr. Hearing Examiner, my opinion is that it is not a dire need at this point. There is access onto Moss Lane out to Indiana. In addition to that, these phases here still have access through to the original phases 1 and 2, where they can access, Homedale Road and also get out to Florida. And so there are several ingress and egress locations, that help dissipate the traffic. It's not all the traffic has to come out right at this location. So it will disperse out. And so for that reason, I do not feel it is a dire need at this point. In the future, I don't know what the future holds, but, things could change, but at this point, I would say no.
Mr. McDonald, we have a traffic impact study for this. It's for all 7 subdivisions, 7 plats. Is that what we got? And
yes, there is a traffic impact study. I actually do not have that in front of me here. Did you have any specific questions about the impact study at this time?
Well, I'm just wondering about these later subdivisions moving through 1 and 2, is there an issue with traffic going through those extent subdivisions, using, that as ingress egress, or is that all part of the plan and it's all workable?
Mr. Hearing Examiner, that was part of the original plat that came through when the density was actually proposed to be higher, at an R2. And so that particular analysis, I have not reviewed specifically. I do not anticipate that there would be any issues, with excessive traffic on any one of these, routes.
Okay, I don't have the benefit of, that history of what was adopted, I guess, 22 years ago. But my question for you, and again, is it looks like there's a lot of cul-de-sacs here. There could be more flow through the subdivision, more connectivity. And this is stated that the ordinance-wise, it essentially is, doable under the ordinance. There's no egregious design flaws here. Would you concur with that, or that number of cul-de-sacs, is that an issue for you?
Yeah, Mr. Hearing Examiner, that's a great question. I think there are circumstances where cul-de-sacs are appropriate, and then circumstances where they may not be. In this case, especially on that north sliver, because of the configuration of the layout, the cul-de-sacs do not cause me any concern. Losing some of those cul-de-sacs and connecting the bulbs to each other on that section, I'm not exactly sure what purpose from a traffic standpoint that's going to serve. And then down in the lower portion, you know, I don't see any real need to modify what's been proposed here. I know a lot of people that prefer to live on cul-de-sacs simply because you don't have the through traffic. And there are some irrigation facilities here that cut through the development, which may make it difficult to have a really more of a contiguous, layout. And so from my perspective, I don't have any major concerns.
Okay, one of the concerns, is just the circulation mainly for, public services, fire safety, school buses, et cetera, getting in. The southwest square there, I'm sorry, I don't know which subdivision is which, yeah, this area, it's cut off at that, drainage ditch, in both directions. There's no flow through or continuity through, those subdivisions. It's just a matter that, you know, in the decades that, I was an urban planner, that is something that, seems to be, well, it just doesn't circulate. It doesn't flow. It countermands the kind of concept I have about subdivision design, in particular about, circulation through neighborhoods. And, would you consider that, a valid concern, particularly on, it would be the western, or the eastern triangle of that, where it all just terminates into the cul-de-sac. There's no flow through there. This just seems to go against all the kinds of principles for circulation that I've ever had applied in urban design. You say think there's a possibility that we could look at a connection, a bridge across the drainage and allow that to connect east and west through those subdivisions.
Mr. Hearing Examiner, I agree that, the circulation is limited because of the configuration and the way it's laid out, and because of the irrigation facility. From a traffic standpoint, I wouldn't see an issue if there was an additional connection made from one side to the other, over that irrigation facility. I'm trying to, you know, looking at this now, that would help circulation. I don't know that that's a critical component or something that, in my opinion, would make or break the subdivision, but that would help circulation from one side to the other.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Caldwell. Okay, just bear out here with my concern. Let's say that you live in the far southeast corner, that last house down there, and you had a heart attack and you're waiting for a paramedic to arrive. And this connection to Moss has not been made. That would be a very direct and fairly doable route. How do you get there? What's the fastest route, you know, to get a paramedic to someone in that house? You know, we're talking about usually like there's a 5-minute response time. It would take them 5 minutes to get from Florida to that house, let alone the lead time to come from the station where they were. I mean, that's the kind of issue that I'm looking at here. Am I too worried about this, or because currently it's proposed that the connectivity through there is almost impossible. You know, you need a GPS to get out of there to buy a gallon of milk.
Yes, Mr. Hearing Examiner, you bring up good points, and I don't think anything's inappropriate to consider or at least think about. Generally speaking, the fire department would normally, from where they're located on Ustick Road, they would likely be coming south on Indiana, which would be this path here. And then at this point here, they could either choose to come into Moss Lane to enter this area, or they could run south and come into this development here. And so I think if they're coming from the station, it's probably not a significant issue. If there was a fire truck over on this side somewhere that happened to be out on route, then they would likely come up and drive around to get down into the subdivision, without having Moss connected through. I don't know how big of a concern that is. I don't track, the emergency services and their patterns closely. And I don't know that we received any comment from, the fire department or any other emergency services departments regarding this layout. And so, I don't know that I'm qualified really to speak to their response routes and driving patterns.
Okay, and on that, now maybe for Ms. Hill, you didn't get a response from the fire department on that issue, or?
There was no response from the fire department on this, design.
Okay, thank you very much. That still doesn't alleviate my concern, but it does answer my questions about that. There's also, conditions of phasing, how the phasing might affect that. Okay, that's all the question I had. With that, I'd like to ask Mr. Brown to make his presentation, please.
For the record, Kent Brown, 3161 East Springwood, Meridian, Idaho. It's kind of interesting. We've been working with this piece of property for some time, and I haven't been involved in the 20 years since we've been annexed, but it seems like it at times. We did move forward with the phase one and got it built. Had some delays during COVID that caused us some issues with regards to staff being able to review it, getting things in. It made it really difficult, and so we had to ask for a time extension of phase two. When we came in and were asking for the time extension, the discussion came up about the changes that had taken place in the R1 zone by the city. And the major parts of those was that it went from, I believe, 6,000 square foot lot, minimum lot size, which is what the original preliminary was designed at, to a minimum of 8,000 square foot that it currently is at. We addressed those concerns as a part of, if you will, a redesign, but we tried to keep the same configuration as much as possible, but we reduced the number of lots. We created a pathway along the Dixie Drain that wasn't provided in the other part. The Dixie Drain was a part of the backs of those lots in the original approval. And we created the pocket park. So it's kind of interesting, the discussion about this southwest corner. We, in one of our designs, had a street crossing that canal and connecting in that area, and staff asked us specifically to put the entrances on the Moss and on the Indiana at specific locations, and that they didn't meet that connection. You asked about that last house in the southeast corner of the site. It connects to an existing development that's there that is with one turn, a straight shot out to Florida through that development. So there is a connection out to Florida to the east of it through that existing neighborhood that we connect to. That majority of that side of that development is the school property. So there's no place for connections or so forth there because of the school. There was one provided that is in that very southwest corner, and so we've connected there, which provides that multiple access point. The way that this is phased is the very northerly, as you said, Arrowhead, portion is, phase 3. Then the portion to the south of that, which would wrap up everything north of Moss Lane, would be phase 4.
Okay.
That consists of 106 lots between those two phases. And then it is, the northern portion of, the development that is adjacent to Moss, and then the very southern portion, would wrap up, and so it's to be done in 4 phases. We've created those pathways, and basically, I believe the reason that we got the comments we did from staff was we designed it the way that they pretty much had asked us to do. We took direction from the denial that we got on our time extension, and basically the reason that we got denied is that we were varying from the preliminary plat, even though we were coming into conformance with today's R1 zoning, and we're dropping lots, and we're complying with current traffic studies. We've been out here, putting in multiple improvements that, in anticipation of building this. We've put in pump stations for irrigation. With this, it helps remove some people from being on lift stations and so forth. Our connections in the portion north of Moss, south of that Arrowhead area that you're talking about, connects into those existing neighborhoods that are along there. This view of it, with not showing those existing neighbors, kind of makes us look like we're out there all by ourselves, but we're blending into what was in there and approved initially. Our neighbors that are adjacent to us, they must have received their approvals during the same time period, because their lots are consistently 6,000 square foot lot sizes. Our density is way down because of the amount of open space that we have and the lot sizes that we have. I mean, we're 2.7 units per acre, overall, which is consistent. I think I've covered everything and answered most of the questions that you brought up, unless there's something that you'd like to ask me.
Thanks, Ken. I would like to go back to the same questions, basically, that, discussions. Rob, could you get that southwest corner blown up? Can you blow that screen up? Yeah, just fill the whole thing with that.
That's all I can do.
Okay, great. I just wanted to, pick up a street name here, but, Ken, what was you said you had a design that did incorporate a bridge across the drain, and, what portion or what connection was that?
So the northern cul-de-sac that goes, east-west out of those 3, the longer one, came across, the ditch and connected into the entrance. Is where we initially had it.
So it went pretty much right in the middle of the
I noticed everybody else, as you tried to use the pointer, when you get over in the area around the screen, it doesn't show up, but,
We had this
Yeah.
connecting, either here or here. The entrance used to be down here. This is where they wanted to align with what's across the street on Indiana. This lines with what's to the north of us and on Moss, and we came across here. We have a pedestrian crossing there, a pedestrian bridge,
trying to, follow what engineering staff, by not having, at least, having the pedestrian connectivity in there. But that's all we got.
But maybe, Ken, let me just ask you, what it would take, because, I see that as a logical alignment to, well, I'll point to it through here. I'm kind of set on this idea of, having the circulation through Platts in that portion. I do understand there are ways in and out of there, but it just seems like a missed opportunity to me, and I'm understanding you would lose a lot, at least a lot, to make that connection. But maybe there's a way to do that, which would essentially take that lot on the western side of that canal, where the ped pathway is, the micropath, and move that lot somewhere else, and perhaps put it where there's open space. I see a number of opportunities and where that lot could be moved up, just up the canal. Like here, for example. Right here.
Right. I mean, obviously, that point could connect to the cul-de-sac that goes to the north also. But yes, I see what you're talking about, instead of dropping a lot, if we moved it up. I don't know that we were opposed to that in the beginning. I don't know how hard it is to cross the Phyllis, it's not Wiki project.
It's Pioneer.
Pioneer. You would be more familiar with them on that than I am, Rob.
Yeah, Rob, would you, please address that question that I guess it's kind of a focal point here. How big would that be?
Mr. Hearing Examiner, the Phillips Canal, I don't know exactly how wide it is at this point, but it could be between 20 to 25 feet wide, potentially. It would likely be I don't know if you could do a box culvert, it may have to be an actual bridge structure. And Pioneer, for a project of this magnitude, an actual bridge crossing, it would probably take a little while to get approval. And there would be review on their part, and it would have to be done certainly during probably the out of irrigation season, the construction work. And so I don't know exactly how long it would take them, but, getting a submittal in and going through approvals could take several months.
But you don't see it as being an insurmountable issue. They're concerned about how the timing and everything, but they wouldn't just tell us to pound sand, right?
No, there are ways to do it and to work with them. It has to be done their way. I mean, that would be clear, but they wouldn't just say no. They would state basically what their requirements are to be able to do it, and you'd have to follow exactly what they're laying out. That has been my experience.
Thank you, Mr. McDonald. Moving in that direction, I also don't want to see you, Mr. Brown, lose any additional lots. I think there's a doable compromise here that would keep the lot count the same and make a connection there.
Understanding that it has to go where there's some currently proposed open space.
Yeah, you have, I don't know about a huge excess, but there's sufficient to, it's close. So anyway, that is all I had. If that concludes your testimony, well, actually, we have another individual here, so you'll get a chance for rebuttal, Mr. Brown. Thank you very much. And, with that, Bart, Andre?
Yes, sir.
Would you like to testify, please? State your name and address.
My name is Bart Andre, 2206 East Homedale Road. We pretty much got the last 40 acres right on the corner there. I think it borders their phase 3. They're right along our eastern, property line.
Where's that?
So, yeah, that whole corner right there. That's
Okay,
us.
great, thank you.
Couple concerns I have, kind of, it's super important to myself and my family. I've lived there my whole life. I'm 5th generation on that farm. It's been our family for a long time. You know, I've watched all this ground get developed over the years. All the farmers that have sold and moved on, you know, to different adventures and things, and just, things are starting to become a challenge. Not only just because of this development, but just the developments in general in Caldwell. Like the gentleman was here, was talking about earlier with parking, you know, just with the influx of people. As we keep developing, this ground, whether it be farm ground or wherever it may be, all these people that are coming in, our roadways, everything here is taxed as far as capacity. I mean, you can't deny it. You try and go anywhere in this town on a weekend, or in the morning or in the evening when people come home from work. Homedale Road, Indiana, might as well be highways now. I've watched that change. You know, we conceded and we had a roundabout put in on our corner. The city did a wonderful job with it. Everything was clean. With the traffic and everything, there were some challenges with the headlights coming through there. Since we started to get more and more traffic going through here, I've got 2 bedrooms that face that west side. There's like strobe lights at night as they pass through, and I'm sure the waits on the other side of me probably see the same thing. I'm surprised there's not more people here, honestly, but, I mean, it is what it is, but, just a challenge of traffic. That Homedale Road there from Indiana to Florida, you know, with only having that one subdivision across the street from us there, we get a lot of high-speed traffic. People tend to leave that roundabout, and it's time to haul butt. I come out of my driveway or the side of my field with farm equipment. The last 3 years, I've been hit twice. Somebody on the road, people just not paying attention, you know, and it's a challenge, you know. There's just a lot of different issues. Excuse me. Another major issue that I'm kind of concerned with is, you know, with the building and everything, is the garbage. You know, a lot of these people that are moving here, coming from another place where things were normal, you know, and that's not Caldwell. Like I said, I've lived here my whole life, and I've watched things change, you know, and some things progress and other things degress. Garbage is one of them. My property line on the west side right there, with all the traffic, garbage, before I cut hay or bale hay, my kids have to go out and try and clean the field out, whether it be garbage or building stuff. That tends to happen, you know, after a windstorm or something happens, you know, act of God. There's some things we can't control, but it is a challenge. Some of that stuff goes through my equipment, it's expensive. The other concern I have is that we've got this new development going on, this phase 3 right here with all the building. I know there's different things that go on for them to, building, as far as the garbage and stuff like that, to contain it and do different things. When they were building that first phase there, roofing material, insulation wrappers. I mean, it was a pain in the butt. And that stuff gets caught in equipment. It is a challenge. You try and catch that stuff beforehand, but some of the stuff we're bailing at 4 o'clock in the morning. So we don't have the opportunity to see some of that stuff. And that's really concerning, because it is an expensive proposition that happens. The other challenge I have is with the property owner. So the Milagro subdivision there, they've called the city police meeting on me at 4 o'clock in the morning for baling hay. They come out, turn their lights on. I haven't had it for about a year now, but it's been a challenge. I can only imagine what it's going to be like in that phase 3, because I'm going to be going up and down that at 4 o'clock in the morning, you know, and someone's going to be upset. These people that are moving here, they don't know what agriculture is, most of them, you know, so there's a lot of challenges going on. The other thing that I'm kind of concerned with as well is our water levels. You know, we've got, a lot of these fields are all gravity irrigated, so I mean, we have a lot of wells in our area, a lot of older homes. My home was built by my great-grandfather in 1925, great-great-grandfather. I've got an old well. My pipes are about, well, my well's, 75 foot. I've got pipes down 30. Water table's pretty high in our area. I've got a sump for my basement, that was put in a long time ago to, when we had real high water or high snow loads in the wintertime, that we would get a little bit of seepage, and my dad actually had that put in. I don't have that come on anymore. So, I mean, obviously things have changed, but, I'm really concerned with all these developments that are going on here. Obviously, we're not irrigating that anymore. And we've got there's a lot of wells, so water tables is one of the things that kind of concerns me, with things that are happening. The other concern I have is on my ditch on on my west side, or the east side of my property, that borders that, phase 3 right there. I don't know how that all set up. I'm not really sure where my property line's at, honestly, where that's staked at. I know when they did the Milagro subdivision, there was some issues, with where the ditch was at, and it was actually their ditch was over on our property, so Dad and them they got things figured out and things were fine there, but I've got a ditch right there, and I don't know what the concerns are gonna be with that. And there again is just the traffic. It's awesome to see that you guys took I guess the went from R2 to R1, is my understanding, for the density, going from the 400 some homes to 208. I mean, most homeowners, families are gonna have at least 2 cars, let alone, you know, if they got a high school student or somebody's gonna have a 3rd car. You know, that's just in that addition right there. I mean, you're 400 cars on Homedale Road. You know, I mean, it is amazing to watch the traffic in the mornings, I mean, or in the evenings. It's a traffic snake, no different than seeing people come down Karcher Road, you know, in the evenings. I mean, it is bumper to bumper. A lot of people that are moving here, that's common where they came from, not Caldwell. I mean, we're a small community, and I think we're getting away from that a little bit. We've developed a lot of open ground. Of course, we're trying to accommodate, you know, the building and the people that are moving here. But, I would really like to see some changes, and just in some of the layouts of this stuff. I mean, obviously, to make this development work, I'm not a professional, so I have no idea what all that works out to, but it'd be nice to see some more space, you know, larger lots. I know in the original, old public meeting that we had with the gentleman here, that was one of my concerns, was talking about having, you know, with these big open areas that we're developing, is why not have 1 and 2 acre, you know, parcel that is nice. His rebuttal to that was, you know, their history has shown that people don't maintain it and they have weeds. I don't think so. You know, most of the properties around here, if you look at some of the ones that are outer that are developed, you know, a lot larger spaces, I mean, they're clean, people take care of them, they're maintained. Not saying that this wouldn't be that way, but it's just a challenge. It really is with things. And I'm not trying to I guess for better words, stop any projects here, but something's got to change. You know, there's too much going on right now. You know, these homes that we're putting in they're cookie cutter homes, they're a box home. You know, and this is just my opinion. I mean, that's the style that we see. You know, I look at these homes every morning out my window, and I see, you know, the same square box, whether it be a different rearranged window pattern, a box on the side, or whatever it may be, and it's the same thing. You know, not only with Corey Martin, but it would be Hubble. You know, it'd be nice to see, I don't know, some character or something that's different, you know, for some of these places. But that's just a challenge that I have. I'm just concerned with safety and things moving forward.
Think, Rashad, is there something specific that this proposal, could do to, make that interface between your property and their property, work out? You talked about the ditch issue in the previous subdivision. Is there a specific issue here that, you know, be in black and white that would help your cause, help your family stay where it's at?
You know, I think we're dealing with progress. You know, unfortunately, I'm sure the same thing that my great-grandfather probably thought the same thing as people started building out there. You know, it's the challenges that we have going on right now. You know, my biggest thing is just, I guess, with different things, is just, I don't know how that's all gonna work out, what the property lines are out on that ditch. I mean, what it is, what we need to change, or what needs to happen, as long as I've got the space to keep that ditch clean. I really haven't had any issues with, any of the subdivision as far as dealing with the garbage stuff. I've worked with, the lady from code enforcement, some of the stuff, and she's been really good about taking care of things there. Like I say, it's just, there's just the traffic, you know, and the safety concerns. There's too much going on, and, you know, none of this stuff I don't think was originally designed to be in capacity of what we have going on right now. I mean, Homedale Road it's like a boulevard. You know, I've lived there 48 years, you know, and I've watched it change from a neighbor going by to look both ways before you even step out next to the road because someone's coming by. You know, and people just don't pay attention. They're not concerned. They've got other things on their mind. And 15,000-pound tractor ain't gonna move when a car hits it. You know, we've been pretty fortunate with just vehicle damage and, you know, no injuries, but something's gonna happen, you know, at some point. And I don't know what the answer for that is, you know. I just would like to see some thought, you know, put into different things and how we go about in the city itself as far as these developments, you know, going forward. But to answer your question again, actually, I don't, just making sure things are kept clean, and I don't know how to mitigate traffic or deal with the lights. That is just getting insane. It drives my wife nuts. It really does. I mean, those cars that come in there, I mean, it's just, imagine just having a strobe light from about, well, in the winter time, I mean, it's 6 o'clock, 5:30, you know, up until about 9, you know, and in the morning, same thing, cars going by and lights, you know, just constantly, you know, and that roundabout, just people going through, it's just amazing, you know. At first, I didn't think it was gonna be a big challenge, but the increase of traffic has really changed that for us.
Right. Well, I do thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
I know it's heartfelt, and, you know, I share your concerns, let me say that.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. With that, Mr. Brown, if you care to make rebuttal, please, and, there's no one else signed up to testify.
For the record, Kent Brown, 3161 East Springwood, Meridian, Idaho. He attended our virtual, neighborhood meeting, and, you know, I feel the concern. I'm, born and raised here in this valley, and, have had similar experiences, and, the ones that he discussed at our neighborhood meeting is just his tractors and the traffic and how crazy people get around their stuff. I totally get that, and, from being a kid and driving when we didn't have near the traffic that we do today. The ditch, we're required to, as a part of getting our engineering plans approved, to work with the owner to make sure that we're putting a ditch in the right location. It sounds like that was his similar experience on the other subdivision with his dad's experience with that. But that's, kind of standard procedure. The phone call part about, having residential neighbors, as you're aware, in 4 months, we've been approved for residential for 20 plus years. But we still have the requirement because, we have, farm ground around us that we put a note on the plat that says that it's a right to farm area, and that it's on there. The purpose of that is to notify people. Whether they read it or not, you know, that's, we're a right to farm, state
you wanna pick up that hay early in the morning and bale it when it's a little damp and the leaves will pick up, you know, it's just a part of doing that. And, I feel for him in doing that. We've spent a lot of time, and money when we were denied on our time extension, we were nearing approval of phase 3's construction drawing. This isn't gonna take place quickly, and we've usually, when we do a phase, 50 lot phase, it's somewhere around there, you, scheduling in, getting your approval to the city of Caldwell and the staff and the ditch companies and so forth. By the time you get that approved, and then you have a construction season. It's about all we can do to get one phase in Caldwell a year. So if we stay with the 4 phases that we have here in this development, it's another 4 years of development. If the economy changes, those 50 lot phases go to maybe 25 lot phases. Those things, you know, could be extended out further. There's nothing in your code that says we have to stay to a phase line, but that's part of the hard knocks of that. I don't think, back to our good neighbor, Andre, traffic's a concern wherever you're at. It doesn't matter whether I'm way south in South Kibana or Melba or wherever I'm at, the traffic is different in this valley. And I go visit my relatives in Twin Falls, that migrated and had just as big a boom when they put in the first dam so that they could farm. And that's where my ancestors came from Russia to the United States and farmed. That's what they did. But they came here, and that was a huge boom. We don't think about that taking place. And we've had these growth spurts. We're having a huge one right now because people have recognized that we live in a nice place. And Caldwell is one of those nice places. And that's where it is. Thank you.
Mr. Brown, can you help me out here, vis-a-vis the discussion of making a connection across that canal? I just would, I'm gonna make a motion to that effect. I need the street names to connect.
You want that street to connect? This name and this name. Are you finding it?
No, I'm not gonna be reading. Giving more. Oh, give them, no, oh, what's gonna give them, the cheese, give them. And then, Burwell Court. Gibson and Burwell.
Gibson and Burrow, that, yeah. And Burwell, yes. That's right. Well, the north-south one, was it Tucker's West and Tucker's?
Yeah. So you just want us to connect it?
Yeah. Thank you very much. And, that's all the question I had. Mr. Brown, thank you for your testimony. And, I will close let me, first have a questions to the staff. Um, well, I think, okay, I think I'm good. I think we can go ahead for the analysis and conclusion. Then I'll close the testimony portion of this hearing and move to the analysis portion. The case before it is very complex, to look at the size of development in the context of the ordinance, but we are talking about a 20-year lifespan of this. It doesn't mean what happened 20 years ago is what's happened with this, but the applicant has updated it to comply with current ordinances, and there's certain, I don't know about a legal vesting, but a certain feeling that there is an established development process if done right here. And reviewing the application, there is a discussion, breaks down the requirements for the subdivision plat, and I'm satisfied with the staff's analysis that it does address the salient issues in this application. And with that, for case number SUB 22-7, the Cedars, subdivisions 3 through 7, we have the findings and facts. The Caldwell hearing examiner accepts the facts outlined in the staff report, public testimony, and the evidence list. All adopted city ordinances, standards, and codes were used in evaluating the application. The conclusions of law in section 5, page 9 of the staff report, the Caldwell hearing examiner has the authority to hear this case and recommend that the Caldwell City Council that it be approved or denied. The public notice requirements were met, the hearing was legally noticed and posted, and the hearing was held and conducted under requirements of Idaho Code and city ordinances. And for recommendations, based on the findings of facts and conclusions of law, the Caldwell hearing examiner hereby recommends to the mayor and city council that case number SUB 22-7, request for preliminary plat approval of Cedars subdivisions 3 through 7, consisting of 208 single-family residential lots in an R1 low-density residential zone on parcels 3274701-0B0, R3274701-000, R3274401-10A1, R3274401-1000, R3274401-0A0, 74.93 acres is approved with the conditions of approval as listed in section 10. The staff report presents us with, actually in section 8 here, conditions of approval, beginning on page 9 of the staff report, continuing to page 10 of the staff report, and there are conditions of approval 8.1 through 8.10. I have some modifications and additions to that, and starting with item 8.7, condition 8.7, it lists the City of Caldwell Fire Department. It says Caldwell School District, but I believe this is Valley View School District. Change that Caldwell to Valley View in 8.7. I'd like to add condition 8.11, the Cedar subdivisions, 3 through 7, shall not exceed 208 residential lots and shall be developed in accordance with Exhibit A3 preliminary plat and with the date of that submission. I can't read the date, but dated, whatever those exhibits were submitted, comma, and A8 preliminary plat landscape plan dated such and such a date. And 8.11 just memorializes those exhibits A3 and A8. Adding condition 8.12 and take a look at this. I wish I had a, okay, I think I have it here. Well, I'm sorry, the print's too small for me to read. We'll just go with this in the southwest subdivisions, I believe, the 5, 6, and 7. Like to add a connection across the irrigation canal that would connect Gibson Street to Tuckness Street across the canal with the bridge there. It would necessitate removing one lot, which that lot can be placed in another part of the subdivision with no net loss to the number of lots allowed in the subdivisions. And Mr. Caldwell, had a question on that?
Yeah, just a point of clarification. If the irrigation district allows a culvert instead of a bridge, that would still be acceptable. And so by using the bridge, I think you want to leave that flexible. The mode of construction could be a culvert or a bridge or something that accommodates the road crossing.
Okay, thank you very much. I'll take another shot at that. Condition 8.12 to provide a connection between Gibson and Tuckness roads in, I believe it's subdivisions 6 and 7, to make an east-west connection across the drain there in however manner would be seen fit by the engineers of the irrigation district and in accordance with the subdivision code. And with that, that makes sense. You might have to help with the minutes on that.
Sure.
But, and with that, I conclude my recommendation to the mayor and city council and close this hearing and adjourn for the evening. And thank you all for your participation. I appreciate it very much.
It's nice to meet you.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. There's a problem.
Yeah.
I don't work with the actual construction part, but I can at least.
Yeah, no, that's great. I have contact information. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean.
Yeah, for sure.
Cause you'll be the first one we
Well,
talk to.
you know, this is just, like I was saying, you can tell everybody, I mean, this is the challenge we're dealing with. That's not going away, but, you know, just to make things easier for everybody, you know, with everything, you know, just the concern, just some of the stupidity that I see going on with people. It's a challenge, you know, I mean, it is what it is.
It truly is. I mean, I look at, I got a young kid that is going to medical school. You know, he learned how to work. He'd go up, he's from Perth, and he'd go out and he'd
do fence and stuff, well, he knows how to dig holes and do stuff. And I look at the kids that are around me and are growing up and going, I taught my kids how to work, but it's interesting that they don't have that experience. That we got from those experiences, I mean. Work ethic and common sense. And so you truly have people that just don't understand, no doubt. No doubt, it is. It's a challenge of
I'll shut it off.
Do you farm a bunch of different properties?
No, we're down, like I say, just 40 acres.